Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about do loops and how you can begin to use them in your game on GameMaker. Follow me on x.com/wizardy. I'm watching this guy play Frogger with his shadow, and that's the kind of stuff that I retweet. So follow me on there if you haven't already. This is another part on my series on the different loop types in GameMaker. We've talked about for loops, repeat loops, while loops, and the videos for each of these is in the description of this video. Go check it out. Now we're going to talk about do loops and what distinguishes it from the other loops, and why would you ever need a do loop when you have all these other wonderful loop types? Well, you came to the right place. Let's write out a do loop. Do and until parentheses. Okay, this is the basic structure of it, and essentially a do loop is saying do this until condition. And a condition is anything that's going to be basically equal to true. So, an if statement is not a loop, but to give you an example of what a condition is, if you forgot, if condition, right, then in the curly braces, do the code. So it's the same thing. So it'd be like if your health is equal to 5, then, run this code. And so a do loop is essentially the same thing. I mean, it is the same as far as your conditions are concerned. You're going to run this code over and over, however much code you have in here, until a condition is met. That's really all there is to it. But I'm going to show you why it's so unique and why it stands out, why you would want this. So I made a number counter here, just to give you a demonstration of how it works. We have a variable. I'm going to put this to 0. My number equals 0. And we're going to say do show message, my number. Then we're going to add 1 to that number. Do this until my number is equal to 5. We're going to say equal to or greater than 5, by the way. Oops. Equal to or greater than 5. Then you're going to stop. Okay, so when we run the game, it's of course going to show us 0. It's going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it stops. So that was 5 messages starting at 0. So once this condition was met, it breaks the loop. Now, a couple things that's pretty unique about this is, number one, notice that it checks the condition after it's ran through this code 1 time. So to show you what I'm talking about, let's get rid of this my number plus equals 1 by commenting it out. And we're going to say my number is equal to 11. Obviously, 11 is a lot bigger than 5, right? So you would think in a normal, like an if statement or different types of loops, it won't run this code. But that's where you're wrong. It will run whatever's in here at least 1 time before it checks the condition. And this can have a lot of interesting use cases. If we run the game, it shows us number 11, and rightly so. That's what we set our variable to. Shows it to us once. Now it's going to check that condition and be like, oh, snap, I can't run that again. And that's kind of what makes it unique, is it's going to do this until it matches that condition, but it's going to run the code at least 1 time before it even checks the condition if it's true or not. If we set this to, again, 0, or we set it to 2, of course, it's going to start at 2, and then, I got to increment it. Try that again. It's going to go start at 2, and it's going to go at least until, that condition of 5 is met. Pretty interesting stuff, right? So let me show you one use case that I thought was a really good one, like getting a player's name. And for like menu things, this can be very, very powerful. So I'm going to comment all this junk out down there. Okay, so now we have something. We have player name. I'm going to remove this so it's not a local variable anymore. We have player name equals to these quotations, which basically means it's what we call a string, right? That's, text is like that. So we have the variable created, but there's nothing in it. And so we're doing this. Do player name equals get string. And then, get string, it's this dark blue because GameMaker doesn't really want you to use get string anymore. It used to be a really popular piece of code back in the day, but now it's what we call deprecated. In other words, they're trying to phase it out. So you're going to have errors if you use it in certain ways. So, but anyway, it does work for this example. So player name is get string. Enter your name. It's not going to give you anything by default. Do that until string length player name is greater than 0. So right now it's equal to 0 because there's nothing in it. If I put a character, now it's equal to 1. If I put a space, now it's 2. If I put 3 more characters, well, now it's 5, right? So in other words, what is this going to do? Okay, and then, after this do loop, then we have a message that says, welcome player name. Let me show you what's going on. When we run the game, a message comes up. I don't enter a name. If I try to exit out of this by saying cancel, it's going to keep showing me this over and over and over. It's just going to keep looping this pop-up, and it's not going to let me into the game until I enter a name. So once I enter Wizardy, the loop is going to break, welcome Wizardy, and then it lets me into the game. That's why there are times it's useful to run the code one time and then check the condition after you've ran the code once. And that's what makes do loops so unique. You're doing it until, but remember, you're running that code at least one time. Okay, so I made, let's make sure this is running. Okay, so I've made some examples. Here's a number guesser, and we're using get string again. And basically we're saying, okay, it comes up with a random number itself between 1 and 10. Target is what we're calling that. It stores it in this variable called target. So it's just random number between 1 and 10. It's for itself. And then there's another variable called the guess, which is the player's guess. And then it's getting a string, which it's wrapped in this real function, which will take a string. So it would take like, 24. If we wrapped it in real, like this, it would turn it into like 24. It'd turn it into that, a real number. So that's what we're doing here because it's returning a string and we're guessing a number. Okay, so it's doing all this. Get string, guess a number between 1 and 10. It's going to start it at 0. Which you can see it's a string 0. That's why we're doing that. Then it's showing a message. You have lost. The correct number was da-da-da-da-da. Okay? And it's going to do that until our guess, which is what we input, equals the target, which is the random number that it's creating every time it does the loop. So, actually, you know what? It'd make more sense if this was out of the loop. That way it doesn't get a random number every single time. Okay, so that way it starts with the same number, so I can go through and guess. Okay, yeah, that would make way more sense. Okay, and then once this breaks, once I guess the correct number, then it's going to say, you're correct, the number was so-and-so. Just to make this easier, I'm going to make it between 1 and 5, just so I'm not, like, wasting time here. Okay, so guess number between 1 and 5, I'm going to guess 2. You lost. The correct number was 2. Okay, so obviously I guessed right the first time, but it still said I lost because, my coding skills are awesome. So I'll just make it to where the dialogue pops up again. Let's try that again. I'm going to get rid of that you lost message. All right. Yeah, I'm really botching this part of the video. Okay, so I'm going to guess the number 4. Guess between 1 and 5. 4. Okay, so it's just going to keep doing that. I'm going to guess 5. I'm going to guess 1. I'm going to guess 2. You're correct. The right number is 2. Okay, so you get the point. It's just going to keep doing it. It's going to check the condition. It's going to run it at least once. And yeah, so here's another use case of why running the condition later is useful, because we didn't even create the variable until we ran this code. So this variable guess didn't exist before this condition. If this condition would have been up here, it would have made no sense. So stuff like that. I think that's might be about all I want to show you in this video. I made this little OR thing, but it's essentially the same thing. OR is equal to 0, or I've collected, or mining, or whatever, and then it's going to do this, or collected, plus equal, so it's adding to or collected a random number between 1 and 3, and then it's going to show the message, or collected, however much, because I'm just adding to this variable every time this runs, right? And it's showing me how much ore I have. I'm going to do this until it's going to run this loop until I have equal to or greater than 10 ore. And when that's done, then it proceeds with the rest of the code, which is mining complete. So we run the game. Let me get rid of that in the create event. Don't need you anymore. Okay, run the game. Of course, this triggers by pressing space. 1 ore, 2 ore, 5, 6, 7, 9, 12. Okay, it's done. Mining complete. Then it proceeds with the code. Yeah, so that's a do loop. That's how you use it. That's what it's for. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the comments. I so appreciate them. I'm trying to upload as much as I possibly can. We've been doing daily uploads. We'll see how long I can keep this up. Follow the x.com/wizardy. Join our Discord. The link for that is in the description. I'd love to see you on there. I'm chatting with people on there. And hey, I'm back on YouTube, so let's go. Let's get the community rolling again. And thank you to everyone who's been a part of this over the last decade. You all have stuck in. Y'all have stuck in there. So anyway, I'm gonna go take a nap, and I'll see you next video.